Welcome back to Making the Madness on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about the National Player of the Year discussion because it has become a discussion. Ayo Dosumnu had a big game against Nebraska. He took over down the stretch, carried them to a victory there, which avoided a bad loss. Meanwhile, Luka Garza only had 8 points against Michigan State. So while kind of the consensus coming into the year was Luka Garza is the best player in the country, he's going to be the National Player of the Year. And for the majority of the season, he's played like the best player in the country. Ayo Dosumnu is making his push towards the top. And then we've obviously got the two players on the two best teams in the country, Jared Butler, Corey Kispert. There's some discussion about Drew Timme as well. I know you're a big fan of that, but what do you make of the National Player of the Year race right now?
Well, yeah, we kind of just all gave it to Luka Garza earlier in the season, kind of just assuming that he was going to run away with it with the way he was playing, and he still played great, but he hasn't played as good in Iowa. They're ranked 11th in the country. I don't have them there, but they played significantly worse the last month. Garza is now averaging 24.5 a game, 8.4 rebounds on 56% from the field and 43% from deep. That's all very good. But you stack that up against a guy like Ayo, who is averaging, not close to a triple double, but close ish. 21.7 a game, 6.2 rebounds a game, 5.1 assists per game, 48% from the field and 40% from deep. For a guy that has the ball in his hands a ton, he can run the point. He can take the game over. That's the difference. I think Luka Garza can take the game over, but he needs others to get him the ball to do it. But you look at what Ayo did against Nebraska. They were going to lose that game, but Ayo has 15 consecutive points, 10 at the end of regulation, 5 straight in overtime, to really put the team on his back to win. Luka Garza, he can't do that because he needs others to get him the ball. Ayo can take it coast to coast with him being the only one who touches the ball in the possession. That's why I think that he needs to be the one right in the race right now. And then you mentioned guys like Jared Butler. He's having a great season, but yeah, I just think there's more pieces on Baylor. You have Davion Mitchell, who should be in the mix for All-American. You have Maceo Teague, who's having a great season. I think that's all around just a great team, even though Jared Butler's great. I think that he's not even the most valuable player on the team. I think that's Davion Mitchell. And you look at Gonzaga, I think the team's too good for someone to win this award. Drew Timme's averaging 19.4 a game, leading the team, while Kispert's averaging 19.2. He has nearly a 50-40-90 on the season. He's shooting 89% from the line. That went down. But, I mean, I just think that team's too good for anybody to win the award. This is an individual award at the end of the day. And, I think Ayo is right in the race, and he'd be my pick right now.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Butler, you mentioned Timme, you mentioned Corey Kispert, you mentioned Davion Mitchell. I think those are all going to be either first or second team All-Americans. If I were filling it out, I would even have Suggs on my second team All-American list right now. I think those two teams have 5 players that will either be first or second team All-Americans at the end of the season. And at the end of the day, both kind of Kispert and Butler and Timme and even Suggs, you could even say Davion Mitchell. They've had big performances, but they're not the sole carrier of the team. So at the end of the day, I think it's come down kind of to the Big Ten player race. And right now, I'd say if I were picking, I would still tend to lean Luka Garza as the National Player of the Year. But I would have Ayo Dosumnu as the Big Ten Player of the Year because, especially in Big Ten play, Ayo's been the better player. He's averaging Luka Garza's averages have gone down by 2.5 points per game. Ayo's have pretty much stayed the exact same at 21.7 points per game in league play. Ayo's playing fantastic. Luka Garza is struggling a little bit. But the one thing is, for Big Ten Player of the Year, you look at the standings. Right now, Illinois has a 2-game edge on Iowa. Illinois has the head-to-head win against Iowa, a game in which the two played each other, and Luka had 19 points, solid game, 50% shooting, but Ayo had 25 points. He went 3 of 3 from 3, shot over 50% from the field. So I think in terms of Big Ten Player of the Year, I think Ayo has the dramatic lead. I think when you kind of bring in the non-conference, those are games where Illinois struggled, where Iowa kind of had a really good non-conference stretch where their only non-conference loss was to Gonzaga. They beat North Carolina. They beat Iowa State. Not really a good win there, but Illinois did struggle a tiny bit in non-conference play, losing to Baylor's nothing, but then they lose to Missouri. So in terms of the Player of the Year, I think Big Ten Player of the Year is Ayo's to lose. I still would think Luka Garza would win the National Player of the Year.
Yeah, that's fair. What it comes down to for me is just when you think about value to a team, this kind of how I determine what I think for the award. You take Iowa off Illinois, they're probably not a tournament team. You take Luka Garza off Iowa, they're probably not nearly as good, but they're probably still a tournament team. You take Kispert off of Gonzaga, they're still really good, probably. Saying maybe not Timmy because he's more of a paint presence that they wouldn't have otherwise. Really, with Umar Ballo likely playing the 5, that wouldn't be as ideal. But you take Butler off of Baylor, that would definitely sting. But then you slide in Adam Flagler starting at the 1. I just think that if you take Ayo off of Illinois, that has the biggest impact out of taking anybody off any of the other teams.
Yeah, I can get behind that. And the one thing, Ayo is so good in the clutch. You mentioned the Nebraska game, triple-double against Wisconsin. Like, the triple-double thing is kind of an underrated thing as well. He was big against Iowa. He fouled out against Indiana, but he certainly had a good game in there. So, like, when the games have been close and on the line, he's been even better than he is the rest of the time, which is really important. And I do think for Luka Garza, I still think it's his award to lose, but he has a tough upcoming schedule. They play Wisconsin twice. Micah Potter, Nate Reavers aren't great, but they can't
rebound.
Luka some trouble. They can rebound, so Luka will get 16 rebounds, but he may not score. They're both big and tall. Penn State could be a game where he maybe goes off. Penn State doesn't really have a paint presence, but Ohio State, Michigan, those are two marquee matchups. If he's able to, down the stretch against those 4 teams, go off and have big games, I think Garza becomes the Player of the Year going into, I guess, the tournament. Now the award won't be announced until the Final Four. So, like, hypothetically, if it's neck and neck, Illinois goes to the Final Four, Iowa gets bounced in the first or second round, I think that could make a difference. So, I think it's certainly a debate right now. I think you can make an argument for either one. I do think it's either Ayo or Luka at this point, though.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Give me Ayo right now.
All right. We will continue to have this discussion a little bit on YouTube as the season goes along. We'll also have some at some point we might do like an award show, so stay tuned for that. But till next time, make sure to subscribe to Making the Madness on YouTube. We will be back.